Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with another track for Dude. You gotta listen to this week. Today we're looking at Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. They were described to me as a hippie cult-like revival band with about 25 members. Jade, who sings this song, has one of the most beautiful and effortless voices I've ever heard. So that is pretty cool. I'm always a big fan of bands with larger amounts of members, and 25 seems like a good number for some reason. It's solid. It's a quarter of 100. It's a good number. Let's dive into this track, Fiya Wata, and see what's going on here. Interesting to start the track off with a count-in tempo that's faster than the song itself. Wait, was the count-in on a triplet? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe. That feels like it was about the right tempo. Interesting way to count it in regardless. Got some cool bends over here. Vocal layers over here. Beautiful. Lovely bass. Very laid back, has a little bit of the guitar ornamentation I would expect in something like blues rock, maybe even Southern Fried Rock. They tricked me last time we did that. We got right back into the groove. Really nice guitar tone too. Those bends are so smooth. The drums just really holding down the fort. Beautiful counterpoint with that guitar line. There's so many layers. Yeah, fun little ending. Fun little ending to that. Nice little piano line to take us out. I'm just gonna mention this right at the start. I'm not going to do this song justice. There are a ton of layers in here that I probably didn't even hear. There's just a lot of information encoded into this track. So I'm gonna talk about what I heard, and that's gonna be about it. First off, yeah, I agree about the vocals. Uh, Great characteristic to them, lovely timbre, um, beautiful projection, and yeah, effortless is a good way to describe them. They just are. It doesn't sound like this person's straining at all, even for some of the higher notes on this track. Absolutely gorgeous. And the cool thing is that this track doesn't just give us the vocals as melody. We also have other melodic lines, such as the guitar coming in there at the end. I had mentioned the counterpoint. We had a separate melody playing on the guitar. We also have harmonic sections coming out of another set of vocals, something choir-esque, usually up here on the left side. We have 2 or 3, maybe 4 vocals coming out there that sometimes harmonizes with the lead vocals, sometimes creates extra embellishments, singing something that is not the exact same rhythm or melody that the main vocalist is, but usually just like a little 3 or 4 note idea. Maybe even repeating some specific words at times to further emphasize them after the main vocalist has already sung them. We have a ton of harmonic sections that line up with what the main vocals are doing as well, whether that's on the piano or sometimes one of the string instruments. I really don't think I can name them all. They all sound like a guitar to me because they're all plucked strings. But, that one guitar that was sort of center left that had all those really smooth bends, I'm sure someone's going to tell me isn't a guitar. It's I don't know, a mandolin or something. I don't know. There's all sorts of different plucked string instruments that you can bend the string and get those really smooth ideas off of. Maybe it's a banjo, who knows? I mean, that goes for a lot of. I thought I heard a dulcimer in here too, but I don't know. There's just a lot of slightly different timbres as far as the plucked string family goes, and I think it's really cool bringing all of those together. One thing that we don't get to hear too often in rock and metal is, well, even in contemporary pop music that utilizes acoustic instruments, instrument variety. I mean, we do get guitar tone differences. The body itself, the strings used, the pedals and the amps and the cabs, all that's going to create specific timbres for your sound. But a lot of that comes down to a digital sound as well. And while there's definitely, it's a cool thing to listen to all these different guitarists have their own signature tones and stuff like that. I'm also a really big fan of just introducing new types of instruments, new types of strings, different bodies, different tuning types, all sorts of stuff that can create unique sounds within music without needing pedals and amps and cabs. And so I'm really happy for a track like this to come along where there's so many really cool timbres being presented within this family that we get to hear quite a bit, and creating some new sounds for the channel. I love it. The rhythm section, bass and drums. The drummer is in the pocket most of the time, giving us quarter notes on the hi-hat, accents on the snare, usually on 3, sometimes on 2 and 4, just giving us a really nice pattern for accents. The bass kick is ornamental, kind of giving us juxtaposition to the main backbeat on the snare, just giving us that nice groove. Very standard drum ideas that work very well with this. I'm going to say this about the bass too, but the rhythm section here is rather simple, but its job isn't to be complex. It isn't designed to be interesting and to steal the spotlight. Its purpose is to be the glue, the foundation for everything, to ensure that all these layers coming in, even towards the end of the track where there's so much going on, I really couldn't tell you more than 4 or 5. I can't tell you that I heard more than 4 or 5 instruments of really being able to focus on what they're doing. That could easily have fallen apart if it wasn't for this rhythm section really holding everything down. And a lot of that's going to come from a simple, solid foundation. And that's what the drummer and the bass give us. The drums have a nice production to them. It does feel retro to me. It does not have the massive bass heaviness that we hear in a lot of drum kit production today. It feels like something that was recorded and produced years ago, decades ago. I don't necessarily want to give a specific year because I feel like there's still a very modern, high fidelity sound to the overall production, but the drums themselves definitely feel like they were produced to match the sound that drums had decades ago. I'm just going to stick with that. Basically, just that there's more treble emphasis on the drums, and they aren't as booming. They don't take up as much space in the mix. And then, of course, the bass. Love the bass. Fantastic tone. Nice, round, warm, beautiful guitar tone. At least to me, it sounds like it's finger picked. Because if you use a pick to pick it, there's a proper term for that. It's not just a pick. There's a term for that device. A proper technical term. But yeah, when you pick a bass with a pick, it has a sharper attack to it that I just didn't hear here. It had a nice softness to it. That makes me think it's finger-picked. Again, simple ideas. Usually some sort of walking bass line to give us some harmonic information. Sometimes there's some rhythmic syncopation in there, some nice groove that's added in that might reflect or line up with what the drums are doing. It's all designed to create this cohesive foundation for everything else to build off of. So we've talked about rhythm, we've talked about harmony. No, we talked about melody. Jumping the gun here. Let's talk about harmony. Pretty much everything else in here is harmonic in some way or another. We do have some ornamental ideas that can be melodic in nature. Maybe they aren't just playing chords, but it's usually, I'm going to play 3 or 4 notes and then I'm going to duck out for a little bit. Maybe I'll come back and play a few more notes a couple bars later. Anything to create a sparkling, twinkling effect outside of this main foundation, harmony, rhythm, and then melody. Everything that exists outside of that. And that's what a lot of the instruments do here, is provide this ornamental stuff. You have your foundational triangle and then all the twinkling around it that makes it unique. And that's what a lot of what's going on here, which makes sense too, because if you're going to have 25 members in the band, putting 25 things together is chaotic. I mean, even when you listen to orchestral music, right? There's a lot of musicians up on stage, but there aren't a lot of parts. Even within, you have 5, 6, 7, 8 flute players. There might just be a flute part 1 and a flute part 2, which means you've only written 2 parts here. You need the extra people to perform it, to have the extra power, the body, the width, the volume, whatever. But there's only 2 parts there. And so when you look at an entire orchestra, yeah, you might have 50, 70, 80 people up there. But there's only 14 parts written. So writing a song with 25 parts, which is probably not what they did here, but kind of fits better with mainstream music. There are very few cases where a modern group will create music where each person is part of a larger section. I don't see that too often, so I'm not expecting that to happen here. I expect each of the 25 members to be doing their own thing in some way or another, just as how we have so many plucked string instruments in here, but rarely are any of them doing the exact same thing. They all have their own concept going on. And so if you're going to put 25 parts in a track, you're going to want to have them going off at separate times. You're going to want to stagger when they're playing, how they're playing, so that you never really exceed too many layers, because things can get very cluttered and messy from there. But a lot of these instruments are doing ornamental stuff, which lines up perfectly with that. Some of the ornamental things end up being harmonic, such as I spoke earlier about the vocal choir thing going on where 3 or 4 vocalists kind of pop up over here, lay down some harmonic devices, but it's also ornamental. They're only going to sing 3 or 4 syllables, really strong harmony, sometimes harmonizing with the lead vocal, but not something that's consistently happening. And what this ends up creating is something that feels simultaneously to me like both a hocket and a full wall of sound. And I find that fascinating. I don't know if anybody else ran into this phenomenon, but there are very few cases within this track where I was listening and I could hear all the individual elements. A lot of the time it all comes together into this wall of sonic expression. I'm just kind of taking the whole song in at any time because there's so much going on. But also, when I start to listen to all the ideas and try to focus in, okay, what's this instrument doing? What's that instrument doing? And my mind is being bounced around to all these directions. By the time I've focused on something cool that's going on over here, they've stopped playing and somebody else has started over here. And at a point, it all begins to feel like a hocket. Which, for those who don't know, a hocket is when multiple instruments or voicings come together and play parts of a part. So maybe your trombone plays da da da, and then your trumpet goes da da, and then your timpani goes bum 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 bum, and then your tuba goes bum bum. And when you play it all back to back, it sounds like one single idea. They're basically doing a baton pass of who gets to play this melodic line. But the timbre change makes it feel like it's sort of all over the place. That's a hocket, and I think that's what's going on here, but it's done production-wise in a way that allows it to feel a little bit more homogeneous and unified than a hocket typically does, especially given all the variety of timbres we have in here, which would typically feel less homogeneous. Like I said, I don't know if anybody else felt that while listening to this, but it was mind-boggling. Usually it's very clear to me what type of composition is being utilized when there's so many parts. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe this isn't a hocket, and maybe I just imagined it given how many ideas were going off, but maybe it is. I'm going to hit some lyrics, see what's going on there, and then we're going to wrap this one up. And it was described to me as hippie revival, and yeah, this song lyrically is about one love, love for humanity. It kicks off, it says, I'm sending you all my love, you with the heart to feel it, you in the light and dark with the eyes to see it. Love go ahead, love stand beside us, love is within each heart to guide us, and I thank the sun for shining that light and letting love blaze like fire. I really like that idea, that fire is equated to love not just because of its brightness, but because of the way that it blazes, the way that it can scorch across the land, the way that it can be passed from one section to the next. Love is definitely something that when you show somebody, they are more likely to show it to somebody else. It can spread in that way, much like a wildfire. However, right after saying letting love blaze like a fire, we shift to a metaphor of rivers. Says we're still learning the river forgives, all the tides are turning. Some say the rivers won't flow, they say it's going to stay dry. Well, once the river will flow for every time it was dry. We'll all be sharing a river of love and letting love blaze like fire. This is really where the song dances lyrically, is that there's this constant back and forth between love being a river and love blazing like fire or like the sun, and I find it really interesting to speak about it in basically opposite elements. I think if nothing else, it does feel a bit of mixing metaphor at times, but I do think that it works well in showcasing the versatility of love, so I think that's pretty cool. It also equates love to elements in general. It is a part of the human experience, no different than fire and water and earth are, and air. You can't escape the elements just like you can't escape love. And, well, this is Captain Planet all over again. The fifth element was love, or heart, I think it was called. Was not expecting to go in that direction, but here we are. And of course, by the end of the song, we have to have some anti-violence sentiments. Lay down your arms, lay down your gun, open your arms and free your heart. I know the hippie movement came about during one of the wars. Was it the Vietnam War? And so, laying down your arms and letting go of your weapons is just such a strong part of the hippie movement that I wasn't expecting it in this track, but it makes perfect sense to have this one little nod towards that. And then the end of the track just says that eventually love will be delivered to everybody, and I thank the sun for shining that light. Which I think could be read as a metaphor for that somebody gave them love. Somebody was a sun that shone their light on them, and they're happy for that, and that's why they're ready to share love with other people. As I mentioned, like a wildfire, it passes on between people. It's very quick to grow. I think all this fits the song really well. The music is upbeat, it's bright, it's cheerful, but it's also laid back. This isn't a song like, hey, you're gonna accept my love and you're gonna spread it and we're all gonna be happy. Like, there's nothing aggressive about the music and there's nothing aggressive about the lyrics either. And so we have that really nice synergy there, but we also have this idea of everybody coming together in order to maximize the spreading of love, to reduce the hate in the world. And I think that works really well with a song with as many layers as this, as it does all come together by the end of the track. And there are a lot of layers going on, and it does become overwhelming in a sense. It reaches a point where, as I mentioned, it was difficult for me to ascertain specific elements of it. I was really just kind of listening to the whole song as an entire sonic entity rather than taking about bits and pieces of it. And I think that kind of works within this context too, where love isn't something that one person gives. It's something that they have achieved from someone else who achieved from someone else. And this passing on of love is sort of a patchwork. It's a little bit of everyone who's ever loved before you being shown on you and then you shining it on someone else. And so bringing all of these disparate parts of music together into this unified homogeneous sound makes a lot of sense. It creates this aspect of unity musically that the lyrics are exploring as well. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely love the whole concept here. Those are my thoughts on Edward Sharpe's and the Magnetic Zeros Fiya Wata. Still not sure what's up with the title. I mean, obviously it's fire and water, the two elements explored in here. Just interesting to phoneticize them like that. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm making it up. Phoneticize. The act of conjugating words into different similar phonetic sounds. Those are my thoughts on this track. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments if you enjoyed this, if there was anything that stood out to you, if there's anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on. Also, if you just have general thoughts, opinions, and perspectives on this track, again, put all that stuff down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, that wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we are going to wrap up this week's theme of Dude, you gotta listen to this. Our last two tracks. We're also going to have a third bonus video tomorrow because there is a new song that came out recently from Seven Spires, and I really love that group, and I decided that I wanted to check them out, and I didn't want to wait a whole week to listen to their new singles. So we're doing that tomorrow too. 3 videos to look forward to. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.